It's been said that between Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, and now Frozen, that Disney is entering into a second renaissance, producing films that are now every bit as good as the classics. Well, I disagree. I'll go so far as to say that these are 100 times better than every Disney film from The Lion King on, but still not on the level of the first big three. I thought Tangled came very close to being that good, but fell just a hair short, and Wreck-It Ralph wasn't classic at all. I would classify that movie simply as cute. Frozen was outstanding, but like Tangled, I feel that it felt just a tiny bit short of being as good as the Renaissance films. Fortunately, it doesn't matter, because whether you agree with the new Renaissance theory or not, it still doesn't change the fact that Frozen was absolutely outstanding. Disney is finally making a return to good storytelling and good art, rather than just storytelling and just art. This film was cared for, thought about, and made with loving pride for quality and attention to artistic integrity, the likes of which I have only seen in the Renaissance films. The setup here is that we have two sisters, one who is completely normal and the other who was born with a strange ability to produce ice like she was the child of Sub-Zero. Everything's fine until one day she accidentally harms her little sister, so her parents take her to some very strange rock things, and they advise them to keep her powers hidden. And so the two sisters go from being unbelievably close to the one sister shutting the other one out, and this sister has absolutely no idea why. Tragically, later in their lives, their parents meet an untimely end, and it's just the two of them. The rest of the film becomes the surprisingly personal story of these two siblings, one who wants to get out, meet new people, see the world, have adventures, and fall madly in love with someone, and the other who wants to stay hidden away, shut out the world and everyone in it, let no one know who she really is, keep her secrets locked behind various doors, and try not to focus on how much shame she feels. You know, I think this movie might have been based on Stan and I when we were teenagers if we had been girls. But this is where Frozen becomes very unique, because it's not all centered around good versus evil. It definitely has that element, but the crux of the film hinges on two issues. Anna, the social sister, trying to have a life and coming to terms with her sister at the same time, and Elsa, the shut-in sister, learning to accept who she is even with this really weird thing about her. And that's what makes this more interesting than Disney's usual outings. Especially with the character Elsa, because it isn't as though she can just suddenly realize that her abilities are completely harmless and call it a day. Elsa's abilities are very dangerous, and that makes the conflict refreshingly complicated. We also have the relationship of two siblings in the forefront, so it's not just boy meets girl or vice versa this time around. It deals with a kind of relationship that is underused and I think often underexplored in modern times. Anna is positively brimming with personality. I find it difficult to recall any time she was on screen that I didn't have a big smile on my face. Elsa is brimming with personality too, she just can't show it. So the conflict of these two trying to get to know each other and cut through the things that are tearing them apart is done quite well. On top of this, we do have the true love conquers all angle, as is traditional in fairy tales, but the movie has a very interesting take on that. It even seems to question that logic at times, though not at all in the resolution, which I thought was a bit of a letdown. It had such a unique take on this issue that I kept on asking myself, what if just plain no one gets together in the end? But if that's the track you end up on in watching this film, you're probably going to be a little disappointed in the end. Also, and I really hope this isn't giving too much away, but there is a surprise villain in the film that I thought was almost painfully predictable. But that's just the external stuff. The substance of the film is in the principal characters and their journey to understand one another. The characters are well presented and come across as real people rather than drawings mouthing celebrities' voices. You really feel you get to know these people. Well, maybe except for the male characters, who can be a bit interchangeable at times, but even then, their interaction with the other characters makes them worthwhile. There's something very Princess Leia and Han Solo about Anna and Kristoff. He even has a furry companion that he travels around with exclusively who no one can understand but him. Their relationship, and by that I only mean how they interact with one another, isn't always easy, but like Han and Leia, it just makes it all the more worthwhile when it pays off and works. But Elsa's conflict is what I liked the most. And no, not just because I can relate to it so much that seeing her hide away from the masses and shutting out the world was like sitting down and watching a 17-year-old home movie. It's because that took me back to one of the things I loved the most about Beauty and the Beast. What she is cursed with, literally or not, isn't even the problem, and the main villain in this film isn't even the villain. The villain is herself, and that's always more interesting to me than strictly heroes versus villain stories. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that they have a comic relief sidekick in this movie who isn't just annoying. I know, right? Disney finally realized that a comedic sidekick doesn't have to be the most obnoxious thing on the face of the earth. I'm looking at you, Monkey Rosie O'Donnell. The character is introduced about an hour too late, in my opinion, but does the job of a comedic sidekick character in a way that doesn't make you want to gouge your ears off. He's funny and lovable without having just a bunch of snarky bullshit come out of his mouth every 5 seconds. Thank you, Disney. I knew you could do it. He's really cute, too. He's a living snowman who dreams of experiencing the summertime, which piqued my interest a lot, but I didn't feel like it ever paid off. Still, he distances himself from that let's just make them all annoying mantra that Disney had in previous years, and goes for oddly subtle in his own way. He's more confused by the world around him than he is making wisecracks all the time, and I found him to be a real delight. The soundtrack is superb. Disney has had a very difficult time lately understanding the difference between a musical and a movie with songs in it. When I saw Tangled for the first time, I got a tremendous sense of rock nerd glee when I heard the movie open to something that was clearly inspired by Pinball Wizard, but on the other hand I thought, we aren't going to be getting this generation's Belle prologue anytime soon, are we? At first I was ready to write Frozen off as a movie with songs in it, but then I was informed that all the songs were written by Robert Lopez, so now I don't know what to think. All the songs are great though, especially that one. You know the one. It's the one you still have stuck in your head right now, even if you saw this movie only once. As for the animation, it's top-notch. It's computer animated, so it seems Disney has finally said goodbye to traditional animation, which is kind of a shame because I don't see why everything has to be computer animated rather than having a wide range of art styles. It's not as if Disney films got bad because they were traditionally animated. It was because of the writing and the needless changes of direction that never should have happened in the first place. Except for The Emperor's New Groove, which I liked. A lot. Then again, considering how mediocre The Princess and the Frog was, maybe it makes sense, and while The Princess and the Frog being Disney's last traditionally animated film might be a bit sad, at least we don't have to say that it was fucking Home on the Range anymore. The bottom line is that it doesn't matter how it's animated as long as the animation drives the story and the characters, and this film succeeds in that probably more than Disney has done since the early 90s. With the continuation of legitimately good films being released by this studio, Frozen is a sign that Disney still has something to offer besides slapping their names on something and then sitting back and letting Pixar do all the work. I might end up reviewing all 3 of these films in full later down the line, but for now, all I can do is offer an opinion and recommendation. See Frozen. See it if you're a 9-year-old child, see it if you're a 90-year-old child. You will be very glad you did.